In the early 20th century, a young woman lived a life that appeared entirely ordinary on the surface, yet concealed a spiritual depth that would eventually change the world. Behind her quiet steps and humble demeanor unfolded one of the most extraordinary and mystical spiritual journeys the modern world has ever known or witnessed. Born in 1905 in a small, nondescript Polish village, Helena Kowalska entered the world into a poor but deeply faithful and large peasant family. She was the third of 10 children, growing up in a home where life was defined by hard labor, simple meals, and a constant reliance on providence. Days were filled with the rigors of farm work and domestic chores. Yet within this hidden corner of Europe, a soul was being prepared for greatness. From the time she was a very small child, Helena felt a mysterious and irresistible pull toward God that separated her from the carefree play of others. While other children played games in the open fields, she found herself drawn to solitude, silence, and a profound longing she could not yet explain. At the tender age of 7, during a Vespers service, she confided to her parents for the first time that she deeply desired to enter religious life. However, the crushing weight of her family's poverty and her parents' staunch hesitation kept this sacred dream at a painful distance for many long years. To help support her struggling family, Helena was forced to leave school after completing only 3 years of basic education to find work. She found employment as a domestic servant in nearby towns, spending her days scrubbing floors, cooking meals, and caring for the children of other families. To those who saw her working, she was just another poor servant girl doing her best to survive the harsh economic realities of the time. But inside her heart, a persistent voice kept whispering, calling her to something far greater than domestic servitude or the expectations of the world. That divine call became undeniable when, at the age of 20, she attended a lively dance with her sister, surrounded by music and laughter. In the midst of the festivities, the room suddenly faded away, and she saw a vision of Christ, stripped, suffering, and covered in wounds. Jesus looked at her with eyes full of sorrow and spoke words that pierced her soul. "How long will you keep me waiting and deceiving me?" Shaken to her very core by this encounter, she immediately left the dance hall, abandoning the company of her sister and the young men present. She ran through the streets to the nearest church, the Cathedral of St. Stanislas Kostka, falling prostrate before the Blessed Sacrament in total surrender. Weeping bitter tears of repentance, she begged the Lord to direct her path and promised to dedicate her entire life to His service immediately. From that decisive moment on the cathedral floor, there was no turning back. As she prepared to leave everything behind to answer the call, Helena traveled to Warsaw and knocked on many doors until she was finally accepted into the congregation of the Sisters of Our Lady of Mercy. Upon her entry, she received the religious habit and took the name Sister Maria Faustina, signifying her new life dedicated entirely to God. Within the convent, she was assigned the most humble and simple tasks, serving as a cook in the kitchen and a gardener. She also worked as a porter at the gate, greeting visitors with a kindness that concealed the profound mysteries unfolding within her soul. To her fellow sisters, she appeared quiet, obedient, and completely unremarkable, indistinguishable from the other nuns living their hidden lives of service. Yet beneath this simple and ordinary appearance, she carried heavy secrets and divine revelations that heaven itself had chosen to entrust to her. It was within the quiet, enclosed walls of that convent that Sister Faustina began to experience extraordinary visions and mystical encounters with Christ. These revelations were destined to shape the future of the Catholic Church and spread across the globe as the message of divine mercy. She would one day be known to the world as the Apostle of Divine Mercy, though at the time she remained completely unknown. Even after taking her courageous step into religious life, Sister Faustina's journey was far from easy as she faced internal spiritual battles. Behind the convent walls, she entered a terrifying period of the dark night of the soul, marked by deep spiritual dryness and struggle. Overwhelming feelings of profound loneliness, crippling doubt, and a sense of abandonment weighed heavily upon her sensitive and faithful soul for a long time. Though she prayed constantly and sought comfort in the lives of the saints, peace seemed to remain just out of her desperate reach. In her intense longing for spiritual help, she turned her heart to Saint Thérèse of Lisieux, known as the Little Flower of Jesus. Therese had only recently been canonized, yet Faustina felt a deep spiritual kinship with her and admired her radical trust in God. Believing that Therese's little way might hold the key to resolving her own painful trials, Faustina began a fervent novena in her honor. On the 5th day of that novena, something remarkable happened as Faustina fell asleep and experienced a vivid dream unlike any other. Before her stood Saint Therese, alive and radiant with heavenly glory, appearing as if death had never touched her youthful and holy face. The little flower spoke with immense gentleness, reassuring Faustina that her suffering would soon pass and urging her to trust God more deeply. When Faustina questioned if Therese had truly suffered, the saint smiled compassionately and promised that Faustina too would one day be a saint. True to the reassuring words she had heard in her dream, her inner spiritual trial came to a peaceful end within 3 days. What seemed like a fleeting dream was in fact a prophetic foreshadowing, as Faustina would indeed one day join Therese in canonized sainthood. As Sister Maria Faustina, she resumed her quiet life of hidden service, appearing humble and ordinary to everyone who looked upon her. But within her soul, extraordinary events were unfolding. As visions of Christ began to fill her daily prayer with increasing frequency, she heard his voice clearly, received his specific instructions, and saw vivid images that revealed the unfathomable depths of God's mercy. Her spiritual directors, recognizing the weight of her experiences, urged her to write everything down in notebooks for the benefit of the Church. What began as an act of simple obedience became one of the greatest mystical masterpieces of the 20th century, her spiritual diary. One vision in particular stood out, where Faustina saw a brilliant, unapproachable light radiating from the majestic presence of God the Father. Between that terrifying light and the earth stood Jesus suspended on the cross, acting as the divine shield for humanity. Through his sacred wounds, blessings poured down upon humanity, protecting the world from the burning wrath of absolute justice. Yet at the same time, she saw a terrifying angel of judgment, poised and ready to strike the sinful world with thunderbolts. Moved by a sudden inner prompting, Faustina began to pray a new prayer, the specific words of the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. As she prayed these words fervently, she saw the mighty angel become powerless, unable to execute the punishment the world deserved. The storm of judgment was halted in mid-air, and in its place flowed a gentle stream of mercy upon the frightened earth. In that profound vision, she understood that this specific prayer had the power to intercede effectively for the entire world. It was a spiritual weapon capable of delaying punishment and opening a miraculous window for the conversion of hardened sinners. These revelations carried both immense hope and a stern warning, revealing the delicate balance between God's love and his justice. Faustina was shown that while God's mercy is offered freely to every soul, the time of mercy would eventually give way to justice. Her mission became clear: to proclaim God's mercy to a world that was quickly forgetting its Creator and drifting into darkness. She was to call as many souls as possible to return to Him immediately, before the window of opportunity closed forever. Among the many visions Sister Faustina received, some were not only consoling but also deeply urgent and prophetic in nature. In one profound encounter, she was visited by the Blessed Virgin Mary, who spoke to her as the Mother of Mercy. With maternal tenderness yet grave seriousness, Mary gave her a clear instruction to speak to the entire world about God's mercy. She commanded Faustina to prepare humanity for the Lord's return, signaling a pivotal moment in the history of salvation. Mary warned that He will come again, not as the merciful Savior as He is now, but as the righteous Judge. This terrifying and glorious mission weighed heavily on Faustina's humble heart as she realized the magnitude of the task before her. She understood she was chosen not simply to comfort the faithful, but to issue a stern warning to a wayward world. Her task was to call lost souls back to God urgently, while there was still time left to receive forgiveness. Jesus himself confirmed this grave reality in her diary, recording words that serve as a lifeline for our modern times. He declared that He is prolonging the time of mercy for the sake of sinners, offering a final chance for redemption. But he added a chilling warning, saying, "Woe to those who fail to recognize this specific time of His gracious visitation." The instructions He gave her were practical, urgent, and full of hope for anyone willing to accept His gracious invitation. He asked that the world spread devotion to his divine mercy and place absolute trust in his limitless power to forgive. He specifically requested that the faithful pray the chaplet and honor the Feast of Mercy on the Sunday after Easter. Furthermore, he commanded the veneration of the image of divine mercy, promising it would be a vessel of extraordinary grace. He promised that whoever honors this sacred image will not perish, offering a divine guarantee of spiritual safety and salvation. Christ pledged that he himself would protect such a soul at the hour of death, defending them as his own glory. This protection would grant the dying soul victory over its enemies, ensuring a safe passage from this life to the next. But Christ also made it clear that faith is not just abstract belief, it must be lived out through concrete actions. Mercy must be shown in deeds, words, and prayer, echoing the call once given to St. Margaret Mary regarding the Sacred Heart. In Faustina's time, this call to mercy came with a new and terrifying urgency, a final invitation before justice arrives. One of the most striking revelations entrusted to her concerned the distant future and the end of the world. Jesus told Faustina explicitly that her mission was to prepare the world for his final coming as the just judge. He commanded her to tell the nations about his mercy, while it is still being offered freely to all. He described in vivid detail what would happen in the days leading up to the end of history. There would be a great sign in the heavens, something so monumental that no person on earth could ignore it. Faustina wrote of a vision in which all the light in the skies would be extinguished, leaving the world in darkness. Then, suddenly, across the blackened heavens, a massive and luminous cross would appear, shining with a supernatural brilliance. From the wounds of Christ's hands and feet, where he was nailed, radiant light would pour out across the earth. This sign, Jesus explained, would be the world's final chance to recognize him before the end comes. It would be a heavenly warning, calling every living soul to choose mercy over judgment and light over darkness. In another related vision, Faustina saw the sky illuminated with an extraordinary brilliance that exposed everything hidden. The radiance pierced to the very depths of every soul, leaving no conscience untouched by the truth of God. It was not yet the end of the world, but a last window of grace offered to humanity. It was a moment of absolute decision, where every person would have to accept or reject God's mercy. In her writings, she records Christ's urgent voice, pleading with the world to accept this final opportunity. He cried out for every soul to come to the fountain of his mercy while there is still time. He warned, "Woe to the one who does not recognize this moment when I come to visit them." These were not the words of a distant ruler, but of a father desperate to save his beloved children. They were both a stern warning and a loving invitation, a final appeal to a world standing on the edge. Sister Faustina repeatedly recorded that divine punishment is never God's true desire for his beloved creation. The Lord assured her constantly that his justice is always delayed and restrained by his infinite compassion. He described his arm as being slow to raise the sword, longing instead to draw souls to his heart. Faustina learned that mercy is God's deepest language, while justice is only a secondary response to rejection. Justice only arrives when humanity stubbornly forces God's hand through a persistent and obstinate rejection of his love. One of the most profound promises was the coming day of mercy preceding the terrifying day of justice. In a terrifying vision, she saw the heavens split open to reveal a luminous cross in the sky. Rays of brilliant light streamed down from the cross to the earth, illuminating every corner of the world. This extraordinary image echoes the prophetic words found in the Gospel of Matthew regarding the end times. Scripture foretells that the sun will be darkened, and the sign of the Son of Man will appear. All the peoples of the earth will see him coming on the clouds of heaven with power and glory. For those familiar with Faustina's visions, the parallel between her diary and the Gospel is unmistakable. But the single greatest turning point of her mission occurred on the night of February 22nd, 1931. In the quiet solitude of her convent cell in Płock, Sister Faustina was suddenly enveloped by a vision. She saw Jesus clothed in a dazzling white garment, his right hand raised in a gesture of blessing. His left hand touched his garment at the breast, revealing a glowing source of divine light within. From the opening of his tunic poured two great rays, one pale and the other red, streaming outward. Jesus then gave her a direct and specific command: to paint an image according to what she saw. He instructed that the painting must bear the inscription, "Jesus, I trust in you," at the bottom. This was not merely a work of art, but a vessel of grace intended to heal sinful souls. This image was intended to be a window into the Sacred Heart, an urgent invitation for sinners to return. Jesus promised that anyone who honored this image with trust would not perish, despite the gravity of their sins. He vowed that he himself would protect such a soul at the hour of death, defending them as his own. This promise included a guarantee of victory over their spiritual enemies, particularly during the final moments of earthly life. From that moment on, Sister Faustina's life changed forever, transforming her from a hidden nun into a chosen messenger. The Lord subsequently revealed specific devotions tied to this image, each carrying a unique and powerful grace for souls. The Chaplet of Divine Mercy was given as a potent prayer to be recited especially for sinners and the dying. He established the hour of mercy at 3 in the afternoon, asking for a daily remembrance of his death. At this sacred hour, believers were asked to immerse themselves in his passion and beg for mercy for the world. He also commanded the celebration of the Feast of Divine Mercy on the first Sunday after Easter. Each of these devotions was described by Christ as a safeguard for souls and a lifeline for a drifting world. In her diary, Faustina recorded his words declaring that he does not want to punish suffering humanity, but heal it. He contrasted this mission with the Old Covenant, noting that while prophets were sent with thunder, she was sent with mercy. Her own life remained outwardly hidden, marked by humility, obedience, and the increasing physical suffering of tuberculosis. Yet, even as her body weakened, the spiritual mission entrusted to her grew immense, stretching beyond the convent walls. When she died in 1938, at just 33 years old, it seemed her story might fade into silence. But the seed of this global message had already been planted deep within the spiritual soil of the Church. Just as she passed into eternity, the world was standing on the brink of the catastrophic violence of World War II. In the midst of the Nazi occupation of Poland, devotion to divine mercy began to spread quietly among the faithful. It was during these dark years of terror that the message of mercy became a beacon for a suffering nation. One man in particular would carry her message far beyond Poland's borders. A young priest named Karol Wojtyła, living through the same storms of war and oppression. He would later rise to become Pope John Paul II. As the Archbishop of Krakow, he personally investigated Faustina's life, studied her diary, and championed her cause for canonization. He defended her mystical writings when they were misunderstood and promoted the devotion she carried with unwavering conviction. When he ascended to the papacy, this local Polish devotion began to blossom rapidly on a global scale. It was Pope John Paul II who eventually beatified and then canonized Sister Faustina, declaring her a saint. He named her the Secretary of Divine Mercy, establishing her message as a gift for the entire modern world. Furthermore, he officially established Divine Mercy Sunday as a universal feast to be celebrated by the whole Church. Through this authoritative act, what began in a silent convent was placed at the very heart of liturgical life. There was also a mysterious and profound providence that seemed to link his own life with Faustina's mission. On April 2nd, 2005, the very vigil of Divine Mercy Sunday, Pope John Paul II died. For many believers, it felt as though the spiritual circle between the nun and the Pope had finally closed. The humble nun who recorded the message and the mighty Pope who proclaimed it were united in God's timing. In his own theological reflections, John Paul often admitted how difficult it is for modern people to embrace mercy. He wrote clearly that true forgiveness is not weakness, nor does it ever excuse or condone wrongdoing. Rather, divine mercy deepens accountability because it calls the sinner to confess and be radically transformed by grace. As Jesus commanded in the Gospel, mercy is always linked to the instruction to go and sin no more. This tension between comfort and conversion runs throughout Faustina's writings, offering hope but never a naive permission to sin. She did not promise peace without repentance, nor did she offer joy without the acceptance of the cross. Her diary records Christ warning her to prepare for great battles as she stood on a spiritual stage. Jesus comforted her fears, assuring her that she was not alone and that heaven and earth were watching her. The Church later confirmed that these mystical warnings harmonize perfectly with Scripture regarding the trials of the end times. The Catechism specifically speaks of a final trial that will test the faith of many believers before Christ returns. This trial will manifest as a spiritual deception, offering a false peace to humanity at the terrible cost of truth. Faustina foresaw this danger clearly, recording Christ's warning that those who refuse mercy must face his justice. He spoke the chilling words, "Whoever does not pass through the door of my mercy must pass through the door of my justice." Her visions of the red and pale rays made this choice stark, offering a tangible shield against the coming wrath. Jesus explained that the pale ray represents water cleansing souls, while the red ray represents blood giving them life. He promised that blessed is the one who dwells in their shelter, for the just hand of God will not reach them. What Faustina offered was not a call to paralyzed fear, but a courageous invitation to absolute trust in God. She insisted that the present moment is not the time for hesitation, doubt, or spiritual indifference toward God. Now is the time to respond and embrace God's invitation of mercy with a sincere and humble heart. Through the devotion entrusted to her, heaven gave humanity one last bridge over the abyss of sin and despair. It is one final opportunity for healing and reconciliation before the inevitable hour of justice arrives upon the earth. Her life may have been hidden and short, but her message endures as a desperate rescue mission for souls. The call she recorded is too urgent to ignore, echoing through the decades as a warning for our generation. It was no coincidence that Pope John Paul II took his last breath on the eve of this very feast. His life and death testified that Faustina's mission was not a passing devotion, but a work of God for our time. When Sister Faustina Kowalska passed away in 1938, weakened by tuberculosis, her story seemed destined for silence. She had been a hidden nun with little formal education, living in small, obscure convents throughout rural Poland. Only a small handful of priests and fellow sisters knew of her secret diary, her visions, and the strange new devotion. The chaotic world beyond her convent walls, already trembling on the violent edge of war, seemed deaf to the voice of mercy. And yet, history was about to prove that her divine mission had only just begun with her departure from this life. Barely a year after Faustina's death, Nazi Germany invaded Poland, plunging her beloved homeland into a nightmare of occupation and blood. The nation was swallowed by suffering and death, as the brutal machinery of war tore through the fabric of daily life. Entire historic towns were destroyed, Jewish communities were tragically wiped out, and the Catholic Church itself faced severe and relentless persecution. It was precisely during these years of absolute terror that the seeds of the Divine Mercy devotion began to spread quietly. Hand-copied excerpts of her diary, often incomplete and tattered, circulated secretly among priests and lay people desperate for hope. The simple, powerful prayer she had recorded, "Jesus, I trust in you," became a spiritual lifeline for those facing despair. Terrified families whispered the Chaplet of Divine Mercy in dark bomb shelters, while the earth shook above them from explosions. Prisoners of war in concentration camps prayed it fervently, clutching rosaries made of dried bread or knotted string. It was said that in Krakow, hidden groups gathered around crude, hand-drawn images of Christ with rays streaming from his heart. They clung to the belief that divine mercy, not human hatred, would ultimately have the final word in history. One of the young Polish seminarians who lived through this darkness was Karol Wojtyła, the future Pope John Paul II. He worked hard labor in a limestone quarry by day and studied for the priesthood in secret by candle-lit night. He carried in his heart the profound belief that mercy was the only power great enough to heal a broken world. Though he had never met Faustina in life, her message would one day come to shape his entire pontificate. During these years, the first Divine Mercy image painted under Faustina's direction was hidden away but not forgotten by the faithful. In 1943, it was secretly moved to Vilnius, Lithuania, where it miraculously survived the devastation of the war. For many believers, the survival of that fragile canvas amidst such destruction was itself a sign of divine protection. Even under Soviet rule, when public devotion was forbidden, people continued to pray before it in secret. The rays of red and pale light, flowing from Christ's heart, began to appear in churches, homes, and holy cards across Eastern Europe. To persecuted believers, this image was not just a painting. It was a promise that even in the valley of death, God's mercy had not abandoned them. After the war, Polish immigrants carried Faustina's message with them as they resettled in the United States, Canada, South America, and Australia. In Chicago, Detroit, and other cities with large Polish communities, the Chaplet of Divine Mercy became a daily prayer. Slowly, it spread beyond Polish circles, reaching Catholics of every background. One striking story comes from the Philippines, where the devotion took root in the 1,950 seconds. There, the Divine Mercy image was enthroned in homes, and families began gathering at 3 p.m. each day to pray. In time, this grew into a nationwide movement. Today, the Philippines is home to the world's largest Divine Mercy shrine, towering over the city of El Salvador, with rays of light stretching from Christ's heart across the skyline. In Latin America, devotion spread with equal fire. Communities in Mexico, Colombia, and Brazil embraced the chaplet as a weapon of hope against violence and poverty. In Africa too, the devotion blossomed, especially in Nigeria, Kenya, and Uganda, where Divine Mercy groups gather weekly for prayer, seeing in Faustina's message a call to healing for nations scarred by conflict. As the devotion spread, reports of miracles began to multiply. Families claimed healings after praying the chaplet at the bedside of sick loved ones. Soldiers told stories of being spared in battle after invoking Christ's mercy. Prisoners recounted inner conversions through the words, "Jesus, I trust in you." One famous healing helped push Faustina's canonization forward, the cure of Sister Maria Malgorzata Czeluska, a Polish nun who had been suffering from tuberculosis in both lungs. After praying through Faustina's intercession, she was instantly healed, astonishing her doctors. Another pivotal case involved an American priest, Father Ron Pytel of Baltimore, who suffered from a severe and damaged heart condition. In 1995, he prayed fervently to Sister Faustina for help, and his heart was miraculously and completely healed. Medical experts testified to the unexplainable nature of his recovery, confirming it as a supernatural event beyond science. These miracles became part of the official Vatican investigation into Faustina's sanctity, paving the way for her canonization. Meanwhile, in Poland, the devotion had found a permanent and glorious home in the convent at Łagiewnicki. The place where Faustina had lived and died was transformed into the Sanctuary of Divine Mercy, a global pilgrimage site. The small, humble chapel where she once prayed now houses the miracle-working image and her sacred relics. By the 1980s and 90s, the sanctuary had become a spiritual magnet for the faithful from every continent. Pilgrims knelt where Faustina once received her visions, touching the walls and whispering prayers for the mercy she promised. Today, millions of pilgrims travel there each year, overflowing the basilica in a living testament to her mission. It was fitting that the man who had survived wartime Poland should be the one to proclaim her saint. Pope John Paul II not only canonized Faustina in the year 2000, but also declared a universal feast. Standing before thousands in St. Peter's Square, he proclaimed that the message of divine mercy was for the whole world. He famously declared that this canonization day was the happiest day of his entire life and pontificate. His own death in 2005 on the Vigil of Divine Mercy Sunday confirmed the providential link. Since then, both Pope Benedict XVI and Pope Francis have continued to promote this vital message. Pope Benedict described Divine Mercy as the central message of the Gospel and the face of God today. Pope Francis called the devotion the beating heart of the Church and chose his papal motto based on mercy. Today, the Chaplet of Divine Mercy is prayed on every continent, in hospitals, prisons, schools, and private homes. It is broadcast daily on Catholic television and radio, uniting millions of voices in a single plea for compassion. Millions of believers now pause at the sacred hour of 3 o'clock to recall the sacrifice of Christ. The devotion has become so universal that it no longer belongs only to Poland, but to the entire human family. What makes this devotion unique is its profound simplicity, making it accessible to the learned and the unlearned alike. The chaplet can be prayed in mere minutes, yet it carries the spiritual weight to move mountains of grace. The image can be placed in any home, from a palace to a hut, yet it represents an ocean of mercy. The Feast of Divine Mercy comes only once a year, yet the promises linked to it are truly extraordinary. Christ promised complete forgiveness of sins and punishment for those who approach him with trust on this holy day. This is why millions around the world see Divine Mercy not as a mere devotion, but as a rescue mission. In a century scarred by genocide, war, and division, Faustina's voice rings louder than ever before. Her journey from a poor village girl with 3 years of schooling to a global saint is almost unbelievable. Her life is absolute proof that God can take what is hidden, weak, and foolish to confound the world. What was once a secret diary locked in a convent has become a global movement of prayer and reconciliation. And yet, her message was not only about the past history of the 20th century, but about our future. Faustina insisted that her words were meant specifically for our times and for the generations that would face the end. Hidden within the pages of her diary are warnings and prophecies meant to guide humanity through the final trials. Christ revealed to Faustina a truth that shook her soul, that the present age is a specific time of mercy. This era is a temporary window of grace offered to humanity before the inevitable day of justice arrives. She recorded his voice saying, "My arm is slow to raise the sword, for I long to save souls." This is not the distant thunder of an angry tyrant, but the patient cry of a loving Father. He would rather forgive 1,000 times than condemn once, waiting until the very last moment for the sinner. But Faustina also learned that when mercy is rejected repeatedly, the world brings ruin upon itself. Justice is not arbitrary anger, but the natural and inevitable consequence of humanity ignoring his love. The most hopeful revelation she received is the time of mercy, a sacred pause before the end. Christ told her, "Before I come as the just judge, I am coming first as the King of mercy." This specific window of grace is the very era in which we are currently living and breathing. One particular vision vividly illustrates the power of prayer to halt divine judgment upon the earth. She saw an angel poised to strike the world with thunderbolts, but the chaplet stopped him instantly. This proved that the chaplet is a weapon of intercession, capable of holding back destruction and buying time. Faustina was also told to fix her heart on the hour of Christ's death every single day. At 3 o'clock, she was to plead for mercy, for at that hour, grace is boundless and open. This hour became a daily prophecy, a constant reminder that the world stands under the shadow of the cross. Her writings also warn of a coming trial that would shake the church to its very core. Christ warned her that the time of mercy is limited and will not last for all eternity. He spoke plainly, "Whoever refuses to pass through the door of my mercy must pass through the door of my justice." The Church's catechism echoes this, speaking of a final trial and a supreme religious deception before the end. Faustina saw a world choosing itself over God, discovering too late that it had rejected its only hope. She returned often to the image of the rays, seeing them as a shelter for the faithful. Blessed is the one who dwells in their shelter, for the just hand of God will not reach them. This was a living prophecy of protection for those who choose to trust in him amidst the darkness. Perhaps the most dramatic prophecy she left behind is the sign in the heavens before the final coming. She wrote that before the day of justice arrives, there will be a great darkness covering the entire earth. Then, a sign of the cross will be seen in the sky, with light pouring from the wounds. Imagine the world plunged into sudden silence, the sky darkened, and then a blazing cross streaming fire. No one will be able to deny it or look away, for it will be a universal sign. This vision was not given to frighten, but to awaken humanity to the reality of God's existence. What makes this prophecy striking is how closely it aligns with the words of the Bible itself. In Matthew's Gospel, Christ says the sun will be darkened, and the sign of the Son of Man will appear. For believers, this overlap is a reminder that her visions confirm truths already contained in Scripture. What sets Faustina's prophecies apart is the heart behind them. They are spoken in tenderness, not rage. "Let every soul come to the fountain of my mercy while there is still time," he pleads. These are not the threats of a tyrant, but the desperate pleas of a loving Father. Faustina understood that mercy is not a soft word, but a burning fire strong enough to overcome sin. Her prophecies were not meant to satisfy curiosity, but to call the present moment to urgent action. They remind every soul that now is the time to choose, and now is the hour to trust. For Faustina, this was not theory, but the lived reality of her short and suffering life. This is why the Church calls her the Apostle of Divine Mercy, the builder of the final bridge. Through her, God built a bridge of mercy stretching across the terrifying abyss of human sin. But as she herself recorded, this bridge will not stand forever, for one day the door closes. Before that day, a luminous cross will blaze across the heavens, calling every soul to decide. The ultimate question remains for every soul. Will it be mercy, or will it be judgment? Nearly a century has passed since Street Faustina wrote down her visions in the quiet of her convent cell. At that time, the world stood on the edge of the Second World War, a conflict that would devastate nations. Her message of mercy came into a world wounded and afraid. But what about the world of today? The years 2025 and 2026 unfold in an age marked not only by war but by a deep spiritual crisis. Around us, we see rising tensions between nations, violence breaking out, and a relentless pace of technology. Many live constantly connected online, yet feel more isolated and lonely than ever before in human history. Morality, once rooted in faith, often seems dismissed, redefined, or lost in a sea of relativism. And yet, in this precise atmosphere, Faustina's words feel strangely and undeniably alive. Her visions of a world trembling on the edge of justice echo across the decades with startling clarity. Christ told Faustina explicitly, "You are living in a time of mercy, but it will not last forever." What does that specific warning mean for us living in the 21st century? The Church has often understood this time of mercy as the era following Christ's resurrection. But Faustina believed her mission was special, a reminder that we stand in an extended pause before the end. Could our generation be nearing the end of that providential pause of grace? It is a question that theologians do not answer with certainty, but the signs of the times invite reflection. Look around at the wars threatening Europe, the Middle East, and beyond, echoing the rumors of war she heard. Families fracture under the immense pressures of modern life, leaving hearts broken and homes empty. Many turn away from faith, embracing materialism, pleasure, or despair as substitutes for God. Others search for meaning in endless distractions, forgetting the Creator who gave them life. Faustina wrote of seeing a society forgetting its God, spiraling into confusion, and losing sight of mercy. Reading her diary today feels remarkably like reading the headlines from our own troubled age. Among all her prophecies, none has captured the imagination of the faithful more than the vision of the luminous cross. She described a sign in the heavens that would appear immediately before the final coming of Christ. She recorded his specific words, "Before I come as the just judge, I am coming first as the King of mercy." He promised that before the terrifying day of justice arrives, a specific sign will be given in the sky. A great darkness will fall over the earth, and then a cross of light will be seen in the heavens. From the wounds of his hands and feet, rays of brilliant light will pour forth upon the darkened earth. It is hard not to see the profound resonance between these words and the deep anxieties of the modern world. In an age where the global order seems increasingly fragile, the image of a sudden cosmic sign carries immense weight. The Bible itself speaks of such signs in the 24th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. Matthew describes the sun being darkened, the moon failing to give light, and the sign of the Son of Man appearing. The book of Revelation also speaks of judgments being held back by angels until the appointed time of God. For centuries, Christians have wondered and debated what these mysterious passages might truly mean. But Faustina's diary gave them a face. The rays of mercy streaming from Christ, holding back the justice due. Is it possible that her words have something specific to say about the years just ahead of us? We must be careful, as the Church never sets dates for prophecy or claims to know the future. No one can claim to know the day or the hour, for that knowledge belongs to the Father alone. But what we can do is look at our times with open eyes and ask if these are the conditions she spoke of. A world on the edge of war, a society losing its moral compass, and technology advancing faster than wisdom. Faustina's prophecies were never meant to frighten believers. but to awaken them to the need for spiritual preparation. She wrote of a coming trial, not so that believers would despair, but so that they would prepare themselves. She recorded Christ's words, "Let every soul come to the fountain of my mercy while there is still time." The key phrase is, "while there is still time," implying that the opportunity for grace is not infinite. In the year 2025, as the Church celebrates a Jubilee, this urgency is impossible to ignore. A Jubilee is fundamentally about mercy poured out, a reminder of the sacred time of grace we live in. Could this be heaven's reminder that we must not waste the graces offered in this specific season? The Catechism teaches that before Christ's return, the Church will pass through a final, shaking trial. This will not necessarily be obvious persecution at first, but a subtle and convincing religious deception. It will offer humanity a false peace, a counterfeit gospel promising salvation without God or repentance. It will tempt man to take the place of the Creator, solving his own problems through power and pride. Faustina warned of this danger, echoing the risk of a world choosing itself over its Creator. In her visions, she heard Christ say, "Whoever does not pass through the door of my mercy must pass through the door of my justice," a choice that the world faces right now. Will we accept the mercy offered, or will we cling to illusions that ultimately lead to ruin? Yet it would be a mistake to see only warning in Faustina's words, for she was a messenger of hope. For every vision of trial, there was a corresponding and powerful promise of divine protection and refuge. The rays from Christ's heart were revealed to be a shelter for souls in times of distress. The Chaplet of Divine Mercy was given as a shield capable of holding back destruction and despair. She recorded, "Blessed is the one who dwells in their shelter, for the just hand of God will not reach them." This is the hope she offered, not an escape from suffering, but absolute safety within his heart. Perhaps the most important way to understand Faustina's prophecies is not by looking only at global events. The luminous cross in the sky may come one day, but every conscience already knows moments of light. Every person must choose, in the quiet of their own heart, to live by mercy or face judgment. In this sense, Faustina's message is not about predicting calendars, but about the daily decision we make. So what about the years ahead? Could 2025 be a turning point in history? Could these be the years when the world is called more urgently than ever to turn back to God? No one can say for certain, but it is clear that Faustina's words were meant for our century. If her voice could speak across decades, perhaps it is speaking even now, reminding us not to delay. She reminds us that while the door of mercy remains open, we must walk through it with courage. In the end, Faustina's prophecy comes down to one single, fundamental choice: trust or fear. We must choose between trusting in His infinite mercy or rejecting it in favor of our own pride. The luminous cross, the day of mercy, and the time of trial are not meant to paralyze us. They serve to awaken us to the truth that history is not random and we are not abandoned. They remind us that Christ is still reaching for us, with arms outstretched across the span of time. The question is not when the end will come, but whether we will have chosen mercy when it does. As the world enters 2025, Faustina's message feels less like an echo and more like a call. Now is the time of mercy. Do not wait until it is too late to accept His love. Whether her luminous cross appears in the sky tomorrow or in 1,000 years, the invitation is identical. For each soul, the day of decision is already here, occurring in the silence of every human heart. When Saint Faustina Kowalska first entered the convent, no one could have imagined the magnitude of her mission. She was a simple woman with little education, living in poverty, yet heaven entrusted her with a message that would shake nations. Her story is proof of a divine pattern, where God chooses the lowly to confound the mighty and powerful. He places eternity's words not in the mouths of kings, but in the hearts of the humble and hidden. Through Faustina, His voice reached across the decades, calling a world adrift back to its Creator. The 20th century was scarred by war and genocide, but the 21st century faces its own unique spiritual desolation. Against this backdrop of modern isolation and confusion, Faustina's words strike with renewed and necessary force. She famously recorded that mankind will not have peace until it turns with trust to his divine mercy. These words are not mere poetry. They are a prophecy inviting us to look at the wounds of Christ. Faustina saw that those who take refuge in the rays of mercy would find protection from eternal loss. The cross of light, she prophesied, stands as both an invitation and a warning to every generation. It was fitting that her mission found its champion in Pope John Paul II, uniting their legacies in providence. Through him, Faustina's message entered the bloodstream of the Church, proclaimed to the very ends of the earth. Now, in our time, her message stands before us like a doorway that we must choose to enter. The choice is stark but beautiful. Pass through the door of mercy now, or face the door of justice later. Mercy is not a demand but a free gift, requiring only the simple vessel of our trust to receive it. Her diary closes not with fear, but with the confidence that God's mercy is an ocean without end. This is why the Church calls her the Apostle of Mercy, for she revealed the depth of God's love. And so the story ends where it began, with a humble nun kneeling in silence, whispering a prayer. It is a prayer that has since circled the globe, belonging to every soul until the end of time. The final words of her mission remain the answer for ours. Jesus, I trust in you.